Part 1. Arrival, Section 1. The road from Topo narrowed until it was little more than a vein of cracked asphalt bleeding through the W. Wilderness. On both sides, black volcanic rock jutted from the soil like old teeth. The land here had no softness left in it, only wind, ash, and silence. Lucas Bennett's truck rattled over a cattle grid and began the slow ascent toward the Tongariro Range. The peaks ahead drowned in low clouds. He'd been driving since dawn, the lake mist still clinging to the windows when he left town. The Anger's post had warned him the climb to Ngauruhoe Tower was brutal, but he hadn't realized how absolute the isolation would feel. No radio signal, no cell coverage, not even the faint hum of Power L. Innes, just the world stripped bare as if the earth had forgotten how to speak. He pulled over near a twisted pine and killed the engine. Steam hissed from the hood, vanishing into the wind. From here, he could see the distant cone of Mount Ngauruhoe, its slope marked by veins of red rock and snow. A plume of vapor curled lazily from the summit, a quiet reminder that this was no sleeping mount. Ain't it only pretended? Lucas leaned against the truck, hands buried in the pockets of his jacket. The air was cold enough to sting. He thought of Ethan, his younger brother, 10 years gone now. They'd hiked here once as kids before the disappearance, before the search parties and the endless news cycles. Lucas had promised himself he'd never come back, yet here he was, driving into the same wilderness that had taken Ethan without a trace. The radio on the dashboard crackled suddenly, startling him. A voice came through, low and blurred by static. Copy, Tower Ranger inbound. Lucas climbed back in and pressed the button. Yeah, Bennett here, approaching the access gate. A chuckle answered him. About damn time. Been waiting for you since lunch. Is AC Walsh, that's me. Keep heading north until you see the old bridge. Don't cross it, turn right onto the dirt track. You'll find me at base camp. The signal cut before Lucas could reply. He drove on. The asphalt gave way to gravel, then to dirt. Pumice dust kicked up behind him in thick gray clouds, coating the windshield and making the wipers screech. When the bridge appeared, it was nothing but two rusted girders spanning a riverbed of black stone. He turned right, tires crunching over frozen soil, until he saw a lone cabin perched beside a watchtower scaffold. Smoke rose from its chimney. Up against the darkening sky, Isaac Walls stood on the porch, weather-beaten and broad-shouldered. His ranger jacket faded to a dull green. A long scar crossed his chin like a pale lightning bolt. He looked at Lucas with the kind of calm that only came from years of silence. You made good time, Isaac said, shaking his hand. Thought the road would scare you off. Almost did, Lucas admitted. Truck barely held together. Isaac grinned. That's how you know you're close. Nothing works right this high up. Machines, radios, people. The mountain likes to test things. Inside the cabin, the air smelled of coffee, damp wool, and wood smoke. Maps of the park lined the walls, dotted with colored pins. A radio set hummed quietly in the corner beside a logbook and an old field compass. Isaac poured 2 mugs of coffee and handed one over. You'll be alone up there for months if you make it through the season. Communications run through this channel. He tapped the radio. Check-in twice daily, morning and sundown. Weather updates, fire reports, wildlife logs. Standard stuff, Lucas nodded, taking in the surroundings. Everything looked routine until Isaac pulled a folded sheet of paper from his pocket and slid it across the table. This isn't in the official manual, Isaac said quietly, but you'll want to keep it. Lucas frowned and unfolded it. The handwriting was rough, slanted, written in pencil. 5 lines: do not leave the tower after sunset. Feed the black deer if it comes. Ignore the voices calling for help. Accept the gift from the man in red, but bury it by morning. If a girl in a yellow raincoat knocks, let her in. Lucas read it twice. Then again. What is this? Some kind of joke? Isaac didn't smile. Wish it were. Call it folklore. Call it superstition. Whatever helps you sleep. But every ranger who ignored those rules didn't make it to the end of the season, Lucas said. The paper down, uneasy. And you believe that? I believe the mountain doesn't care what we believe. It's older than our names, older than the stories. Sometimes it reaches out to remind us of that. He leaned forward, just follow the rules, all of them. For a moment, the wind outside howled like something alive, scraping across the windows. Lucas felt a pressure in his chest like the air had thickened. Who wrote this? He asked. Samuel Holt. Isaac said, Ranger before me, good man. Careful, smart, thought he could outsmart the place. He walked out one night after hearing so. Leon screamed, never came back. Next morning, we found his boots. Beside the tower, nothing else. Silence hung between them, the kind that carries weight. Lucas folded the paper again and slipped it in two. His jacket. I'll keep it, he said, but I don't believe. In ghosts, Isaac gave him a look that wasn't quite pity, not quite warning. You will. They left the cabin near dusk. The tower rose at the summit like a skeleton against the bruised sky, its observation deck jutting into the wind. From here, the view stretched for miles, moss-covered valleys, ash plains, and the faint smoke trails. From distant vents, Isaac helped unload the supplies. Fuel cans, canned food, binoculars, a field radio. When they finished, he lingered beside the truck, studying the horizon. Sun goes fast. Up here, Isaac said, don't get caught outside after dark. Lucas glanced at the fading light. Rule 1, he said, forcing a grin. Isaac didn't return it. Remember Rule 2 as well. He'll come soon. Who? The deer. Isaac's eyes were hard now, reflecting the pale sunset. Don't run, don't speak. Just feed him and go inside. He's part of the balance, Lucas Washington. I did for more, but Isaac had already turned toward the truck. See you in 4 months, if the mountain lets you. The engine roared to life, echoing down the slopes. Then he was gone, swallowed by the fog that rolled. Ed in as the last light bled from the sky. Lucas climbed the steel steps to the tower, the air thinned with every breath, colder than before. The structure groaned in the wind, each step vibrating underfoot. Inside the cabin, he unpacked his gear and lit the small oil lamp. The room filled with a warm amber glow, maps pinned to the wall, a narrow cot, a weather log, a thermos of water. He essayed tea at the desk and unfolded the note again. The handwriting looked different now, deeper, as though carved rather than written. He read the rules slowly, tracing the letters with his finger. 5 lines. Simple, childlike, and yet his stomach churned with unease. Outside, something creaked in the darkness below the tower. Settling, or maybe something else. Lucas turned off the lamp and listened. Ed, only wind. He laughed under his breath, though it didn't sound convincing. Folklore, he whispered, just stories. The mountain said nothing. Far below, the forest stretched into shadow, and from somewhere unseen came the faintest sound, a single step, crunching through the snow. Section 2. The wind didn't stop that night. It came in long, steady breaths that made the tower groan like an old ship. Lucas sat at the desk, wrapped in his jacket, watching the flame of the oil lamp bend and twitch. Outside the window, the land was nothing but a wash of darkness and snow, the faint curve of the horizon swallowed by fog. He checked his watch. 11:47 p.m. He should have been asleep hours ago, but the stillness pressed against his skull like a weight. Every creak of the floorboard sounded deliberate. Every sigh of wind almost like breathing. He wrote in his field log to keep his hands busy. Temperature, -6 degrees Celsius. Wind, steady northeast. VI, stability, poor. Notable. The mountain feels awake. He hesitated before writing that last line. It sounded ridiculous even to him. He scratched it out. The radio crackled to life. Static first, then a low voice. Copy, Tower 1. Don't go out there. Not even to look. Lucas tried to keep his tone light. You make it sound like the mountain's haunted. A pause. "It is," Isaac said simply, and then the line went dead. By midnight, the cold had crawled beneath his clothes. He stood to stretch, walked to the window, and froze. Down in the clearing at the base of the tower stood something black. It was motionless. At first, half shrouded in fog, its outline barely visible against the snow. Then the wind shifted, and the shape came into focus. A stag. Tall and lean, its fur dark as obsidian, two eyes burned, faintly red in the lamplight. Lucas's pulse quickened. He didn't move. The note in his pocket felt heavier suddenly, as if the pencil marks had weight. Rule 2. Feed the black deer if it comes. He told himself it was just an animal, some trick of reflection or altitude sickness, but when it turned its head toward him, the movement was too smooth, too slow. The eyes caught the light and held it like glass. His breath fogged the window. He backed away, forcing himself to remember Isaac's words. "Don't run, don't spare." Lucas grabbed one of the unopened cans from his food crate. Baked beans, the first thing that came to hand, and opened the hatch in the floor that led to the tower's staircase. The night air bit his face like ice. He set the can on the ground just beyond the first step and climbed back up fast, heart hammering. Through the glass he watched. The stag approached silently. It didn't walk so much as glide. Snow didn't crunch beneath its hooves. It lowered its head, breath steaming red in the lamp's glow, and began to eat, tongue black, slow, deliberate. The sound wasn't right. There was no wet chewing, no clink of metal, only the faint whisper of air. When it finished, it lifted its head and looked up directly at Lucas. The eyes were like dying coals, not glowing but pulsing. Faintly, almost mournfully. For a second, Lucas thought he saw something behind it, a figure at the tree line, pale against the dark, unmoving, but when he blinked, it was gone. The deer turned away, walking back into the fog. Its body thinned, stretched, faded until the snow absorbed it completely. Lucas sat back down, shaking, trying to slow his breathing. He reached for the radio again, but the static was thick now, filling the tower like insects crawling through wire. He switched it off. He opened his journal. His handwriting trembled. 12:30 a.m. Saw a black deer. Fed it. It ate. No sound, no prints. Eyes glowed red. I think someone else was out there. He stopped. The room suddenly smelled faintly of burnt wood, though the stove was cold. He turned the lamp down to a flicker. That was when the knocking started, a single rap against the metal door at the base of the tower. Not loud, just enough to be real. He froze, staring at the floor, listening. Another knock, slightly harder this time. 3 seconds of silence, then another. His hand went to his flashlight, thumb hovering over the switch. Rule 3. Ignore the voices calling for LP, but this wasn't a voice. This was something solid. "Isaac," he called down. His voice came out small, thin. The wind howled in reply. He forced himself to take one step toward the hatch. Another. The sound came again, metal against metal. Closer this time. Lucas leaned over the hatch door and shouted into the dark, "Who's there?" Silence. He waited, pulse pounding in his ears. Then, softly, from just outside the tower, Lucas. His blood ran cold. The voice was familiar, young, strained, trembling. "Lucas, please, it's me." He knew that voice. He hadn't heard it in a decade, but he knew it. "Ethan." The lamp sputtered as if reacting to the name. Shadows moved along the walls, stretching thin like smoke. Lucas gripped the railing, nails biting into the metal. "No," he whispered. "No, you're gone, please." The voice said again, closer now, right beneath the floor. "It's cold out here. Let me in." Every instinct screamed "Oh, move," to open the hatch, to look, but the note in his jacket might as well have been carved into his skin. Ignore the voices. He backed away slowly until his legs hit the cot. The voice rose again, sharper now, despera. "Lucas, it's me. I found the way back. Please open the door." He clamped his hands over his ears, but the voice slipped through like smoke, filling his head with echoes. F memory hiking boots in wet ash, Ethan's laughter fading up the ridge, the searchlight sweeping over volcanic rock. Please, the voice whispered, right behind his ear this time. He spun around. Nothing, just the thin whistle of wind through the tar seams. Then, all at once, the sound stopped. No wind, no voice, no tar groan, the air was perfectly still. Lucas stood frozen in that silence or what felt like hours, until finally a distant sound broke through. A deer's cry, low, hollow, almost human. He found himself staring again at the paper, unfolded on the desk, edges already soft from his hands. 5 rules, simple, unbreakable. He crossed out the last line of his journal entry, then added one more sentence. The mountain knows my name. He didn't sleep that night. When dawn finally bled across the horizon, the snow outside was unbroken, no footprints, no marks, no cans. Only the faint outline of hooves pressed into the frost, arranged in a CT circle at the base of the tower. Section 3. Morning. Came slow, the light reluctant to cross the ridge. Lucas sat at the narrow desk, eyes fixed on the horizon as the fog peeled away layer by layer, revealing a world drained of color. The snow glittered like powdered glass. The tower's steel bones moaned softly in the wind. He hadn't slept. His thoughts looped through He night Ethan's voice, the black deer, the quiet after the knocking stopped. He told himself it was isolation, altitude sickness, the kind of auditory trick the brain played when deprived of rest. He almost believed it. Almost. He stood and stretched, his spine popping in protest. Below the tower, the clearing looked the same as before except for one thing. The circle of hoof prints he'd seen at dawn was gone, vanished, not snowed over, not melted, just gone. The ground beneath was untouched, like the frost had never been disturbed. He switched on the radio. Static. Then, faintal. Why? Isaac's voice. Morning check. Tower 1. You still breathing up there? Lucas snatched the receiver. Yeah, still here. Good. How was your first night? He hesitated. He could almost hear Isaac smirk through the static. The easy humor of someone who'd already lived through whatever this place threw at him. I saw it, Lucas said. The ear. Yeah. Isaac was quiet for a long moment. Then, did you feed it? Yes. Then you're fine. It won't bother you again for now. Lucas frowned. For now. Don't overthink it. Just remember it's not a threat. It's a test. Before Lucas could ask what that meant, the line snapped to static. He tried calling back, but the channel was dead. The signal meter didn't even flicker. He stepped out onto the deck, the wind sharp and metallic against his face. From here, the world looked infinite, stretching from the smoking peaks of Ruapehu to the far plains of Tongariro, endless tundra streaked with Hado. The mountain's silence wasn't peaceful. It was watchful. He descended halfway down the tower's staircase to check the perimeter. His boots crunched softly over the frost near the bus. He noticed the patch of disturbed soil where he'd placed the can of beans. The can was gone. Not kicked over, not carried off, just gone. And beneath the snow, something dark had bled into the ground, staining the frost like ink. He crouched closer. The stain shimmered faintly in the sunlight, red-black and oily. When he reached out, it pulsed like something alive was breathing just beneath the surface. He jerked back, stumbling a step. The air felt heavier. For the first time, he realized he couldn't hear the wind. Couldn't hear anything. Then the whisper came. Lucas. It wasn't Ethan's voice this time. It was deeper, layered. As if several tones spoke at once, it came from nowhere and everywhere. He turned, scanning the clearing. Nothing moved. Lucas, it said again, closer now. You shouldn't have looked. He bolted up the stairs to at a time, slammed the hatch shut, and locked it. His hands shook so hard the latch rattled. Back inside, he forced himself to breathe. The room looked exactly as it had lamp on the desk, field log open, coffee mug cold. But something had shifted in the air. The light from the window had a faint red hue, now like sunlight filtered through smoke. Lucas pulled out the paper of rules again. He smoothed it flat on the desk, reading each line aloud this time, like a mantra against madness. When he reached the last rule, if a girl in a yellow raincoat knocks, let her in, the lamp flickered. He looked up. For just an instant, his reflection in the window changed. It wasn't high, and staring back it was someone younger with a familiar scar along the eyebrow. Ethan. The face smiled faintly, lips moving, but no sound came. Lucas stumbled back, heart slamming against his ribs. He blinked, and it was gone. Only his own reflection remained. He sat down hard on the cot, pressing his palms to his eyes. "Get it together," he muttered. "You're just tired, the alt. I too'd screwing with you." The words helped a little, but as he lowered his hands, he noticed the faint smell again, burnt wood and something sweeter underneath, like singed hair. He followed the scent to the stove. The ash inside was cold. He hadn't lit it since yesterday, but nestled among the gray coals was a single feather, perfectly black, edges glowing faintly red. He didn't touch it. He just Tared ... outside. Thunder rolled across the mountains, though. The sky was clear. He spent the rest of the day performing routine checks, anything to anchor himself to normalcy. He scanned the ridges for smoke, logged temperatures, tested the emergency beacon. The motions kept him sane, or close enough. By afternoon, clouds gathered fast. A storm was building over the western peaks, the kind that cowl. "Trap a man here for days," he radioed in a weather report, though the line remained dead. He made dinner before sundown, instant soup, crackers. He didn't touch the coffee. The smell of tea. Beans made him nauseous now. When darkness crept in, he lit the lamp again. The rules sat beside him on the desk. He'd memorized them already, though he couldn't help rereading them every few minutes. Something about the handwriting bothered him. It had changed. The lines were sharper, darker, like they'd been rewritten in fresh pencil since the morning. He turned the paper over. On the back, faint words had appeared, scrawled in the same uneven hand. "He's still out there." Lucas stared at it until the ink, or whatever it was, began to fade. Then, far below the tower, the radio crackled, not from his desk, from the forest. He crossed the room slowly, heart in his throat, and leaned toward the window. The sound was faint but unmistakable, a transmission, distorted, echoing upward through the trees. "Tower 1. Can you hear?" He turned the radio dial. Static hissed. The voice outside grew louder. "You shouldn't have looked." The signal ended in a sharp click. Lucas backed away from the window. The lamp sputtered. Then the voice, Isaac's voice, came through his own radio again, clear this time. "Lucas, if you're hearing this, listen carefully. Don't come down the tower, not tonight. Whatever you see, whatever you hear, it isn't me." The transmission cut again, and from somewhere below, 3 slow knocks echoed up the staircase. Part 2. The Black Deer. Section 1. By the second night, the mountain had changed its tone. The air itself felt heavier, thick, electric, as if something in the clouds above was holding its breath. Lucas stood on the tower's observation deck, watching storm fronts roll over the ranges like slow avalanches of ink. Lightning flashed inside the fog, bright enough to show the faint outline of Ngauruhoe's cone, steaming in defiance of the wind. He hadn't heard Isaac again since the transmission. Every attempt to reach him was answered by nothing but the dry hiss of static. He had tried to rationalize its storm interference, magnetic anomalies, solar flare, but each explanation felt thinner than the air he breathed. It was 8:40 p.m. when the first tremor hit. A deep vibration rolled through the tower, subtle at first, then violent enough to make the lamp swing and paper scatter across the floor. He bent the desk for balance. The metal staircase rattled. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. He waited for the aftershock. It never came. Outside, the storm had gone silent, no and no thunder. Just the low hum of the generator. Downstairs, muffled by the floorboards. Lucas exhaled and knelt to gather the papers. One had slid beneath the cot the page of rules. He picked it up and noticed something new, a smudge across the second line, as if someone had dragged a wet thumb through the words. Rule 2 now read, "Feed the black deer if it comes, if it speaks, Don." T answer. He didn't remember that part being there. He flipped the page, half expecting more writing to have appeared. The back was clean, but his hands trembled anyway. At 9:15, the generator dead. The silence that followed was absolute. Lucas grabbed his flashlight, but the beam flickered weakly, dimming with each breath he took. He opened the hatch and started down the steps to see. Heck, the power unit, the air outside felt charged. Metallic on his tongue, like breathing through copper. He reached the base and knelt by the generator. Everything looked intact. He pulled the echo cord once, twice. Nothing. Then something moved. Behind him, he froze. A sound, soft and rhythmic footsteps crunching snow, slow, deliberate. He turned the flashlight toward it, the beam the outline of a figure just beyond the edge of the clearing. At first he thought it was a man. But then it moved, lowering its head, and the light caught twin eyes burning like embers, the black deer from the night before. Except now, its fur shimmered in patches, wet and slick, like oil. Its antlers glistened with frost that seemed to move on its own, twitching against the AI. Lucas took a slow breath, remembering Isaac's voice. Don't run, don't speak, feed him. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a sealed canned beans again. He plowed. See idiot on the snow. Never taking his eyes off the creature, the deer stepped forward. Its hooves didn't sink this time. It moved like shadow given shape. When it reached the can, it stopped and looked at him, not through him, but into him. Its mouth opened, and it spoke. Lucas, the sound was wrong, dry, layered, like wood splintering under pressure. The syllables came out slow, stretched, borrowed, from something that had never learned how to use a human tongue. He stumbled back, heart in his throat. The rule burned in his mind. If it speaks, don't answer. The deer tilted its head, steam curled from its nostrils, glowing faintly red in the darkness. Lucas, it said again. He's cold, you left him. His breath caught. His brother's voice had come from that throat, not the low demonic rasp, but Ethan's voice woven through it, pleading. Cracked, the word slipped out before he could stop it. The deer's eyes flared bright, its jaw split too wide, and stretching until he saw nothing but teeth and red light. The air roared. Lucas fell backward onto the stairs. The beam of his flashlight shattered against the snow, plunging everything into blackness. When he looked again, the deer was gone. Only the can remained empty, its surface blackened as if burned. He climbed back to the tower in near darkness, locking the hatch behind him, his breath in. G came in ragged bursts. His hands shook as he lit the oil lamp again, but the flames sputtered low, dancing violently against invisible drafts. He sat at the desk and opened his logbook. 9:44 p.m. The deer returned. It spoke, used Ethan's voice. I answered, rule broken. He stared at those last two words until they blurred. Outside, thunder cracked not overhead, but beneath the mountain. The floor trembled. The air smelled of sulfur and smoke. From the window, the snowfield below shimmered, veins of faint red glowing through it like molten arteries. The mountain was awake, but hear it now, deep under everything, the slow rumble of stone shifting, like something enormous turning in its sleep. The radio on his desk clicked once, static. Then, faintly, Lucas. He froze. Not Isaac's voice, not Ethan's, someone else. Female, soft, whispering. Don't listen to him, it said. He's not your brother. The voice faded as the saint. Attic deepened. Lucas reached for the dial, desperate, but every channel gave the same. Answer low, endless breathing. He turned off the radio. The flame of the lamp flared bright white for a single second, then it died. Lee. Bang him in the dark with the echo of the mountain beneath him and the taste of ash in his mouth. He didn't sleep that night either. When morning came, the snow around the tower was black, and in the center of it, carved into the frost in perfect handwriting, was a single line. He heard you, Section 2. By the third day, the storm had turned the mountain into a living thing. The sky hung low, gray and bloated with snow, and the wind screamed down from the ridge like something with lungs. Lucas had sealed every window he could, jammed towels beneath the door, and still the cold found its way in, an intelligent cold, creeping through seams and hinges, curling beneath his skin like thought. The radio hadn't worked since dawn. Every hour he tried, and every hour it answered with the same looping static, as if a single breath was caught in the wires. The hum had a pattern now, a rhythm buried inside it, almost like a heartbeat. He stopped TR. Ying after sunset, the storm had swallowed the world. From the window, there was nothing to see but white, no ground, no horizon, just a universe of frozen dust. The tower groaned in protest, each gust making the frame flex like bone. He told himself the structure had been built to survive worse, that Isaac had weathered a dozen storms just like this one. But Isaac had also written those rules, and Samuel Holt had broken them. Lucas sat by the lamp, staring at the flame. He'd been seeing things in the light lately, faces in the glass, movements behind his reflection. He'd leer Ned not to blink when the first knock came. He thought it was the tower shifting again, then came a second, louder, sharper. He froze. A third, it came from halfway down the stairs, not from below like before. 3 knocks, evenly spaced. Then silence. He forced himself to breathe. Don't leave the tower after sunset. He repeated the rule under his breath like a prayer, though his eyes were already turning toward the door. Knock, knock, knock. Lucas, the voice wasn't Ethan's this time. It was lower, rougher adult, amused, long way F. Rom home, aren't you? He didn't move. The handle rattled once, then, through the thin seam of the door, a faint light appeared, red like a cigarette ember. It slid across the crack in slow arcs, as if whoever stood outside was tracing the outline of the lock with something burning. Go away, Lucas said. The voice chuckled. That's not very hospitable. Not to a colleague, Luke. As his throat went dry. Who are you? Caleb, the voice said, almost cheerfully. Fire Ranger for the Southern Sector. You must be the new one. Isaac mentioned you. The tone was too casual. To rehearsed, Lucas S. Stayed silent. The ember paused, then lifted higher eye level. Now, through the narrow window, a silhouette loomed, a tall man in a red coat, collar high, hat brim dripping with meltwater. Caleb smiled. Or maybe the shadow of his mouth did. Storm's bad tonight. Let me in, or I'll freeze out here. Lucas glanced toward the paper on the desk. Rule 4. Accept the gift from the man in red, but bury it by morning, so he was real. He swallowed. What do you want? I brought something. A peace offering. Caleb held up his hand. Something small gleamed between his feet. Anger's metal catching the lamplight. Coffee, fresh, from town. Isaac told me you'd run out. Lucas didn't answer. Caleb's grin widened. Tell you what, I'll just leave it here by the door. You can open up once I'm gone if you're shy. He heard the faint thud of an object set down, followed by the scrape of boots retreating into snow. The red light drifted away into the white blur until only darkness remained. Lucas waited 10 minutes before opening the door. The wind shoved inside, cold and howling. On the step sat a tin mug, steaming faintly, though there was no heat source. Inside was dark. Liquid, blacker than coffee had any right to be. He stared at it for a long time, then he did what the rule said. He accepted it. He lifted the mug, smelled nothing, and carried it in. Sighed. On the desk, it didn't cool. Steam continued to rise in lazy curls, silent and patient. He took the shovel from behind the door and went out again, trudging through the storm to the back of the tow. Where the ground was softest, each gust felt like hands pushing him backward. Snow stung his face. He dug until his fingers went numb, dropped the mug into the hole and covered it. When he see on back inside, he found footprints on the floor. Not his. Wet prints, large, ending halfway across the room and stopping there as if the owner had simply vanished. He sat with his back to the wall, knife in hand, the radio silent at his side. The hours crawled by, measured only by the groan of steel and the endless whisper of wind. Every so often, he thought he saw movement beyond the glass, something pacing in the white, just outside visibility. When the clock struck 3, the generator came back to life on its own. The light flickered, the radio clicked, a voic. E cut through the static, distorted but clear. Bury it deeper next time. Lucas jumped to his feet. Isaac, is that you? Too shallow. The voice sighed. D. He'll smell it. The transmission ended with a sound like laughter, low, mechanical. Wrong. Lucas turned the dial, desperate, but every channel hissed the same word on repeat, low and rhythmic, blending into the pulse of the S. Torm, Caleb, Caleb, Caleb. At dawn, the storm finally broke. The light that filtered through the clouds was gray, weak, barely enough to see by. The snow had buried everything, including the patch of soil behind the tower, but even under the drifts, Lucas could tell something had disturbed it. The ground had sunk inward slightly, shaped like a footprint, a large one, and the snow above it was red, not blood red, not liquid. The crystals themselves had changed color, glowing faintly from within, forming a trail that led down toward the tree line. He watched it for a long time before turning away. When he went back inside, the paper on the desk had changed again. A 6th line had been added in the same slanted handwriting. Do not speak his name. Section 3. Th. Next morning felt wrong before Lucas even opened his eyes. There was light in the room, but it wasn't morning light. It had that dim, reddish tint that didn't belong to any hour of the day. For a moment, he thought the lamp had flared again. But the wick was cold, untouched. The color came from outside. He could see it through the frost-rimmed window. The snow beyond the tower glowed faintly, pulsing like embers under glass. He forced himself upright, muscles aching, throat dry. His head throbbed, a slow hammer behind the eyes. The radio sat quiet, the notes still pinned. Ned beneath it, edges curled. 5 rules. And the new one, scrawled in handwriting that wasn't quite the same. Do not speak his name. He wondered if Isaac had meant to send him, or if something else had learned how to write. He boiled water for coffee, real coffee, from the sealed pack in his kit, not whatever Caleb had left behind. The air in the tower felt here thicker. Each breath left a trace in front of him, even though the small stove radiated steady heat. He poured the drink, watching the steam rise, and set the mug down untouched. There was movement. Tea outside, not the storm, not the wind. He stepped to the window. Down near the tree line, where the snow should have been unbroken, something had moved through the white, a faint trail, glowing dull red like the veins of cooling lava, led away from the tower. It twisted through the trees, vanishing into fog. He stood staring at it until the coffee went cold. Then he grabbed his coat and the rifle from the emergency locker. The air outside was dense with silence. Not even the wind spoke anymore. Snow crunched softly under his boots, muffled by the thick air. The red tea rail pulsed gently as he walked, veins of light through frozen crystals, winding downhill. Each step carried him further from the tower until it disappeared behind the curve of the ridge. After 10 minutes, he reached the tree line. The forest here was different, older, the trees black and slick with ice, roots twisted above the soil like bones. He paused and checked his bearings, though the compass needle spun uselessly, trembling between north and nowhere. The trail ended at a small clearing. Something jutted from the snow. He crouched, brushed away the frost, and he felt metal under his glove. A thermos, stainless steel, dented on one side. His own thermos. The one he'd left inside the tower next to the logbook he straightened fast, scanning the trees. The forest was empty. The air carried that same copper taste as before, the faint hum under everything. A voice came from behind him. You shouldn't have come down. He turned. No one there. He exhaled through his teeth, breath pluming, white, and backed toward the open field again. But the footprints he'd made were gone, filled in with red snow. The light around him flickered, dimming, brightening, like a heartbeat. Lucas. The voice again, closer now. He spun, rifle raised. A figure stood among the trees, a tall man, the same red coat he'd seen through the door, collar high, face half hidden by shadow. Caleb. Only this time, his eyes burned faintly through the dark. Quite the mess you've made, Caleb said softly. His voice didn't echo. It slid through the air like smoke. You buried my gift, didn't you? Lucas steadied the rifle. Stay where you are. Caleb smiled, slow and easy. I didn't come to hurt you. Not yet. I just want to know, did you like what you saw last night? Lucas frowned. What are you talking about? The thing that spoke with your brother's voice. Caleb tilted his head. You fed it. You heard it. That's how it finds you, you know. Through the sound, through names, the pulse in the snow brightened. Lucas took a step back. What do you want from me? Same thing the mountain wants. Caleb took one slow step forward, boots sinking soundlessly. Your attention. He smiled wider, and the air between them bent slightly. Heat haze and the cold. Tell Emmy, Lucas, do you remember the scream the night he disappeared? Lucas froze. His throat tightened. How do you heard it? You ignored it. Caleb's voice soft teen. Almost kindly. You followed the rule before you ever knew it existed. The red light flared. Lucas fired. The rifle cracked once, echoing through the woods. The bullet hit Caleb square in the chest, but instead of blood, a plume of steam burst out, curling into the air like breath. Caleb staggered, looked down, and chuckled. Still warm, he said, and when he looked up again, the hole in his coat was gone. Lucas turned and ran. The climb back up the slope felt endless. The world warped around him. The trees leaned inward. The ground seemed to shift under his feet. Once, he looked back and saw Caleb walking through. With the snow behind him, no rush, no effort. His boots leaving no trail, the tower appeared at last, half swallowed by fog. He threw himself inside and slammed the door shut, locking it quick. His lungs burned. The air smelled of iron and dust. He collapsed against the wall, listening. Silence, then, faintly, the sound of boots on metal stairs. No wind, no storm, just the slow, deliberate rhythm of someone climbing toward him. He grabbed the radio. Isaac, he shouted into it. If you can hear me, he's here. Caleb's here. He's real. I saw. The radio cut him off with a burst of static. Then a whisper, soft, female. Bury it deeper next time. Lucas stared at the speaker. The voice wasn't Isaac's. It wasn't Caleb's either. Who are you? He whispered. The static crackled, and for a moment he thought he heard the faint sound of rain against glass, then words, quiet, trembling. Don't let him in. The light in the tar flickered. At once, twice, then went out. He heard a single knock on the hatch below. Then another. Then a third. He didn't open the door. He sat in the dark with his back to the wall, rifle across his knees, the pap of rules trembling in his hand. The ink of the newest line had begun to run, bleeding into the fibers like blood in snow. Do not speak his name. He is listening. And from somewhere just beyond the door, Caleb's voice rose again, patient, amused. Lucas. He whispered back without meaning to. Go away. And in the silence that followed, the mountains seemed to laugh. Part 3. The Cry for Help, Section 1. When dawn came, it didn't feel like morning. The storm had broken during the night, but the sky was still the color of ash, thin light smearing over the snowfields like diluted blood. Lucas hadn't slept. He'd spent the hours between midnight and sunrise sitting on the floor of the tower with his rifle in his lap, counting heartbeats between the knocks that never came again. At some point, the mountain had gone silent. Not peaceful, silent like it was listening. He rose slowly, muscles stiff, eyes aching from fatigue. The air inside the tower felt stale, heavier than it should. He could see his breath, though the heater still hummed faintly. On the desk, the paper of rules lay flat, its pencil marks faintly darker than before, as if someone had pressed over them in the night. He looked out the window. The snow below was untouched, no footprints, no trails, no sig. And of Caleb, for a moment, he convinced himself it had been a hallucination, isolation, lack of sleep, the altitude messing with perception. Then he saw it, at the edge of the clearing, just before the tray. Line, something stood buried up to the knees in snow. A shape, human-sized, motionless. He reached for the binoculars, hands trembling. The lenses were fogged. He wiped them on his sleeve, adjusted fog. U.S. What he saw nearly made him drop them. It was a man, or what had once been. The skin was stretched tight across a face that wasn't entirely there, features blurred, as if carved by wind instead of born. Its head tilted slightly upward, and though the eyes were frozen open, Lucas could feel it looking straight back at him. He stumbled away from the window, breath sharp in his chest. When he dared to look again, it was gone. He tried the radio at 9 sharp, the first scheduled check-in. Nothing. At 9:15, a voice finally came through. Copy Tower 1. Repeat, Tower 1. Do you read? Lucas snatched the receiver. Yes, this is Bennett, Tower 1. Who is this? ... Static. Isaac Walsh. You sound rough, son. Really? F hit so fast it hurt. Isaac. Jesus, where the hell have you been? There's something out here, someone. He came to the tower, said he was another Ranger Caleb, but the line went quiet. Isa, see. Lucas pressed the transmit button again. Isaac, come in. Nothing. Then the voice returned, quieter this time, as though whispered directly into his ear. You shouldn't have said his name. T. His signal collapsed into static again. Lucas dropped the mic. Hand shaking, the radio hissed for another minute before dying altogether. The tower creaked, something heavy shifted, and the wine door would hop. Ed was the wind. He checked the lock on the hatch. Secure. Still, he dragged the metal foot locker over it, just in case. He made himself a meal: instant noodles, canned carrots, anything. Tea. Oh, keep busy, but the smell of food reminded him of that impossible mug Caleb had left on the steps, the one that steamed without heat. He forced himself to swallow anyway. The first cry came just after noon, a faint, distant sound that slipped through the mountain's silence like a cracking glass. A man's voice, faint but clear, carried on the wind. Help, Lucas fro. Z. Spoon halfway to his mouth. It came again, closer this time. Help, please. Someone. He stood, heart hammering. The voice was coming from the north ridge, near the tree line. It sounded raw, panicked, real. He grabbed the binoculars and peered out. Nothing. The snow was blinding white and broken. Help me. The sound tore through the air, desperate, human. He nearly opened the hat. CH before he remembered the rule, Rule 3. Ignore the voices calling for help. He shut his eyes. It's not real, he muttered. It's not real, Lucas, the sound of his name was like a blade. He stumbled back, hit the desk. The voice came again, closer now. Lucas. Please, it's me. He knew that voice. Every nerve in his body recognized it. Ethan. The room felt smaller suddenly. The air too thick to breathe. He ran to the window, and they're half buried in the snow at the edge of the clearing was a figure in a torn parka. The same height, the same way of standing. He could even see the fade green of the jacket Ethan used to wear. Please. The voice cried again, weaker now. I can't move. Lucas pressed his palm against the glass. Ethan. Th. E-Man lifted his head. His face was wrong, too smooth, like wax half melted. But the eyes, they were Ethan's eyes. Lucas's body moved before his mind caught up. He reached for the door latch, stopped half way. Ignore the voices. He forced himself to look again. The figure was gone, no footprints, no trail. The voice, however, was still there right beneath the tower, soft, almost tender now. "Lucas, open the door." He backed away, hands pressed against his ears. The voice grew louder. "Lucas, I'm cold." He shut his eyes. "You're not real, Lucas. I am hungry." The sound shifted lower, layered, wrong. The words stretched too far. "Feed me." Something thudded against the hatch. Once, twice, metal groaning. He grabbed the rifle again, aimed at the floor as if it might help. The knocks stopped, silence, then the whisper came again. "From inside the room this time, you broke the rule." He spun around, nothing there. The air shimmered faintly in front of the stove, like heat over asphalt. Then the shimmer moved slowly toward the desk. He backed away until his shoulders hit the wall. The shimmer reached the desk, touched the page of rules. The paper lifted slightly, though. No wind stirred. A new line etched itself beneath. The others, faint pencil dragging across the fibers without a hand. "You will ask for your voice next. Do not give it." Lucas stood shaking. Br. Eth tearing in and out until the writing stopped. Then, softly, the radio came back to life, static. Then a girl's voice. Quiet, frightened. "Please, let me in." He didn't move for a long time. The snow outside was motionless. The sky dim, but that voice, the girl's, wasn't like the others. It didn't echo. It sounded alive, and it came not from the forest, but from directly beneath the tower. He stared at the hatch. "Please," the girl whispered again, almost crying now. "It's cold." He remembered the last line of the rules, the one that had always made him uneasy. If a girl in a yellow raincoat knocks, let her in. He looked out the window, and there, barely visible through the snow, stood a small figure, yellow against the white. A LD. A girl, maybe 8 years old, her face hidden by a hood. She lifted her hand and knocked. Section 2. The knocking came again, gentle but deliberate. Each sound felt too measured to be wind. Lucas. As hand hovered over the latch, the girl outside stood. Perfectly still in the storm, her yellow raincoat the only color in a world reduced to gray. Snow streamed past her without touching the fabric. The hood covered her face, but he could see strands of hair clinging weightily to her cheeks. "Please," she said. The voice was soft, trembling, not like the thing that had mimicked Ethan. Not layered or stretched, just a child's voice, tired and scared. He hesitated, every nerve remembering Isaac's warning. The rules keep you alive. And Rule 5 was clear. If a girl in a yellow raincoat knocks, let her in. He took a breath that burned cold in his chest and opened the hatch. The wind surged through, flinging snow in spirals. The girl stepped forward without looking up. She was smaller, though, and he'd expected barely up to his chest. Her boots made no sound on the stairs. As soon as she crossed the threshold, the whine died. He closed the hatch, sealed it, and turned. She stood in the center of the room, rain dripping from her sleeves, leaving no puddle on the floor. The yellow fabric shimmered faintly in the lamplight, catching colors that weren't there. Amber, green, a flicker of blue. Lucas cleared his throat. "You're freezing. Sit down." She didn't move. "Where's your family?" he asked. A long pause. Then, softly, "Lost." The word came out like an echo from a deeper place. He grabbed a blanket from the cot and approached slowly. "You're safe here," he said. "I'm Lucas." She looked up. Her eyes were pale almost colorless, reflecting the lamp flame like mirrors. "I know," she said. The words rooted him to the floor. "What do you mean you?" "Isaac said you'd be here." Lucas blinked. "You know Isaac Walsh?" She nodded. "Once. He kept the fire burning." He listened. "What fire?" Her gaze drifted to the window. "The one under the mountain." He followed her stare. Outside, the fog moved like something alive. Hours passed. She sat at the desk while he paced, trying to make sense of her presence. Every question he asked came back in fragments, half answers that only deepened his unease. Where do you come from? The snow. Who's Caleb? The one who hunts. What does he want? To take what belongs to the mountain. Her voice was calm, to calm for a child. He wanted to believe she was delirious, that she'd wandered up from a lost hiking group, but every time he glanced away, she seemed older, her posture to still, her breathing to steady. He caught himself staring. How old are you? She smiled faintly. As old as the fire. Lightning flashed across the windows. For a split second, he saw the reflection of something else sitting in our place, a shape like a woman, her hair long and wild, eyes burning white. Then the light was gone, and only the girl remained. Lucas backed away. The tower groaned under another gust. What are? Your Myra tilted her head. You fed him. He froze. What? The black one, she said. He walks between breaths. You gave him your voice when you answered. He swallowed hard. The deer, she nodded. He heard you. Now he listens. They all do. A sharp noise cracked through the storm, metal on metal, far below. The girl's head snapped toward the hatch. Lucas moved to the window and looked down in the white field below. A figure in red was crossing the clearing, slow and deliberate. The snow didn't touch him. His coat billowed against a wind that wasn't there. Caleb. He stopped at the base of the tower and tilted his head upward. For an instant, the light from his eyes cut through the fog like twin sparks. Then his voice rose, carried by no air. Lucas, you let her in. The girl's small hands gripped the edge of the desk. He found us, she whispered. The tower shook, dust fell from the ceiling. The lamps flickered. Lucas grabbed the radio, twisting dials. Isaac, if you can hear me, he's here. He's at the tower. Only static replied, but beneath it, faintly, came Isaac's voice, distorted by distance. Keep her inside. Whatever happens, don't open the door again. Then silence. Another impact, louder this time. Metal screamed. The tower's frame bowed inward with a deep groan. Myra's voice stayed calm. He can't cross unless you invite him. Don't speak his name. Lucas turned to her, jaw tight. What is he? Something that forgot it used to be human. She looked at him now, eyes no longer gray but luminous white. He hunts the ones who remember. A deafening clang rattled the room. The window glass spider-webbed, flakes of ice raining down. Caleb's silhouette loomed outside and Diaz pressed against the frame, palms burning faintly red. The smell of iron filled the air. Lucas backed away. He can't get in. Not yet, Myra said. Another boom. His one shook the lamp off the table. The flame rolled across the floor, guttered. Died. The only light came from the storm outside, lightning strobing in uneven pulses. In one flash, Caleb's face appeared inches from the glass. His mouth moved slowly, soundlessly. In the next flash, he was gone. Lucas raised the rifle, aiming at nothing. Stay away from the windows, Myra whispered. He doesn't need to open them if he knows where you're looking. He obeyed. The tower creaked and moaned for nearly an hour after that, the wind tearing at the metal-like hands. Myra didn't end. Ovi. She sat at the desk, humming something too low to be a song, too rhythmic to be random. When the worst of the storm faded, Lucas turned back to her. What are you humming? A promise, she said softly. He can't have it yet. What promise? She looked at him then, really looked, and for a moment the child was gone. The light in her eyes was something older than Langu. Age. To keep the mountain dreaming. Outside, thunder rolled. Again, but it didn't sound like thunder. It sounded like laughter. Section 3. The night began to bleed into itself. Every sound, every breath, every heartbeat inside the tower seemed to echo. Twice, once in the air, once somewhere under it. Lucas stood by the window, watching lightning strobe across the snowfields between flashes. He thought he saw movement, tread sparks flickering like embers, advancing one measured step at a time. Each pulse of light made the world lurch a little closer. Caleb was coming back. Myra sat perf, fly still at the desk, her yellow coat casting faint reflections along the metal walls. The lamp beside her burned low and steady, untouched by the wind that leaked through the seams. She looked younger. Again, almost human. Almost, Lucas whispered. "Why isn't he leaving?" "Because you remember," she said. "He can't stand that." The tar shook. Once, gently like something testing its strength. Then again, harder, bolts whined in the corners. Lucas backed toward the door and braced it with his shoulder. The next impact came like a hammer. The entire floor leapt under his feet. The S. Tove toppled. Scattering sparks, wind roared through. The crack at the hatch seam, carrying with it a faint metallic smell, sharp and dry. "Lucas." Myra's voice was clearer then. It had any right to be over the noise. "He's trying to wake the mountain." "Don't answer him," a voice bellowed from outside, distorted by distance and storm. "You opened the door once, you'll open it again." Lucas pressed his weight against the latch. "He can't get in. He doesn't need to," Myra shouted. The air temperature dropped instantly. The lamp flame went white. Outside, a Verdi. Cal flash of lightning cut the world in two, and for the blink that followed, Caleb was right there on the other side of the window, face lit red from within, eyes like twin furnace vents. Then the light died. Lucas stumbled backward, half blind. The glass hissed. Vine cracks spidered outward, glowing faintly before fading. Myra was on her feet now, her small hands raised, palms out toward the window. Her voice was low, almost musical, the same rhythm she'd hummed before. The cracks stopped spreading. "Stay behind me," she said. He didn't argue. The wind outside gathered into a saint. Edie scream. Metal vibrated underfoot. It sounded like the entire mountain was exhaling. Caleb's voice slipped through the roar, calm again, conversational. "You think she's saving you? Ask her age. How many she's let burn." Myra's jaw tightened. "Don't listen." But the voice kept going, circling the tower like a current. "She tells every ranger the same lies. Stay in the light. Follow the rules. Keep the balance." Then she forgets them when the snow. "Comey's, stop," she whispered, but the walls themselves carried his tone, repeating fragments of his words back at them. Lucas shouted, "Why are you doing this?" "Because he never stopped screaming," Caleb answered. Thunder split the sky again. The floor rolled like surf. Somewhere below, the generator exploded in a burst of Geety. The tower's circuits flickered and died. In the darkness, only the glow from Myra's coat remained, a faint aureate pulse, beating in time with Lucas's heart. She turned toward him. "He's almost through. I can hold him, but you'll have to listen." "To what?" "To the mountain." He started to ask what she meant, but the noise outside drowned everything. NG. The wind rose into a roar so deep it rattled the glass in its frame. He felt it vibrate through his ribs. Then, inside the storm, came something else, voices. Hundreds of them, whispering over one another. "We." Bang through the wind. Names, pleas, prayers. The same rhythm he'd heard in the radio static, now alive around him. Myra closed her eyes. "They're the ones who broke the Yules." A metallic shriek ripped across the wall. A section of paneling, peeled inward like foil, bending under invisible pressure. Beyond it, through the widening gap, a red glow pulsed Caleb's silhouette, his hand pressed flat against the steel, heat radiating outward. In waves, Lucas. Myra's shout snapped him back, the flare gun. He grabbed it from the emergency locker, cock at the trigger, aimed at the gap. "Now," he fired. The flare hit the opening and burst into blinding light. For a heartbeat, everything turned white, the snow, the walls, Myra's face. Then the light flooded outward through the tear into the storm. A sound followed, low and terrible, like metal being wrenched from its own memory. The pressure vanished. The wind dropped. When the after image cleared, the gap in the wall was sealed again, bent inward but whole. The air smelled of ozone and wet stone. Lucas lowered the flare gun, chest heaving. Did that stop him? "For now," she said. She sounded exhausted, her voice smaller than before. He sat down beside her on the floor. What happens when he comes back? Myra looked toward the window. The fog outside had gone ASTI. Lines again, the snow blank and featureless. He always comes back. She said, that's his nature. Lucas stared at the rules still tacked above the desk. Each line seemed darker than before. Etched rather than written beneath them, a new sentence had appeared in. The same jagged script, the storm ends when the mountain remembers. He turned to ask her what it meant, but she was already lying down on the cot, eyes half closed, breathing slow. The tower groaned once more in the wind, as if settling its bones. Outside, somewhere deep in the forest, a single red light flared and went dark. Part 4. The Man in Red, Section 1. When dawn finally came, it felt wrong. The sky over Ngauruhoe had turned a washed-out gold, thin and distant, as though light itself was afraid to touch the mountain. The storm had broken some time before dawn. Lucas wasn't sure when. He must have blacked out sitting against the wall, rifle ASTI. Lines clutched in one hand, Myra asleep on the cot beside him, breathing faintly as if dreaming underwater. For a while, he just watched her. She looked human again, pale, fragile, her small hands tucked deep beneath her chin. The yellow coat hung loose on the chair. Without it, she looked like any lost child. But the way the air bent around her, how her breath didn't mist, how the room seemed, and slightly quieter when she stirred, reminded him that she wasn't. He rose, stretching stiff muscles, and went to the window. The world was to clean, no footprints in the snow, no scorch marks where the floor had gone off. Even the bent metal from the attack was smooth again, as though the tower itself had decided to forget. He looked down the slope, expecting to see the red shape waiting below. Nothing. For the first time in days, the wind was silent. He spent the morning taking inventory. Generator offline, radio dead, stove cracked from heat stress. He found a backup receiver under the cotton. Old, boxy model with a hand crank and peeling. Stickers from decades ago. It wasn't supposed to work beyond a few kilometers, but it was something. He turned it on. Static. Then, faintly, music. Old jazz, distorted by distance. A trumpet lost in fog. Myra stirred. That song again, she murmured. He looked at her. You've heard it before. She nodded. Low. When the old man was here. Isaac. Her eyes flicked up, unreadable. He listened too long. Lucas frowned. Listened to what? The mountain, she said. It sings when it. As hungry. Before he could ask what that meant, the static shifted. A new sound crawled through crackled breathing, then a man's voice, low and measured. If you're hearing this, you've made it through the first night. Lucas froze. He knew that voice. Isaac Walsh, don't panic. That's what it feeds on. If you're still at the tower, that means you followed the rules or close enough. Good. Keep them. They not folklore, their containment. The transmission clicked and popped. Lucas turned the volume higher. You've probably met her by now. The girl in the yellow coat. Don't ask what she is. He's not an enemy. Not a friend either. She's the line. The one between what's alive and what just remembers being. Lucas's throat tightened. Myra was awake now, staring at the speaker. Expression unreadable, and if a man in red comes to your door. Isaac's voice continued. Remember, he isn't the first. He's what's left of the first. The forest made him. Into its echo, he thinks he's protecting the mountain. He's not. He's keeping it asleep. The tape went quiet. For a moment, only wind filled the room again. Then a faint scratching came from the back of the device. Luke, as turned it over, the battery plate was missing. No power source, no tape reel. He dropped it, stumbling back. Myra's eyes were wide. He's close. By noon, fog had rolled back up the ridge, swallowing the horizon in dull silver. The daylight felt temporary, a borrowed thing. Lucas tried to fix the generator, anything to occupy his hands, but the smell of ozone clung to the air. Harp and electric. His nerves were raw. Every time the tower creaked, he flinched. he found himself reading the rules again, tracing the pencil strokes with his finger like a prayer. 5 rules: simple, instant, unavoidable. He looked up at Myra. Why me? Why send me here? She didn't answer right away. Because you still believe there's a way back down, he laughed. Once, hollow, isn't there? Not after he finds your name, she said quietly. He stared. My name. Myra turned toward the window. He learns it from the mountain. Outside, the fog thickened. By early afternoon, the sky dimmed again. He checked his watch. It said 1:17 p.m. But the light looked like dusk. The clouds rolled low, pressing against the tower windows. Then he saw it. Halfway down the slope, something right moved between the trees, not red this time. Gold like sunlight caught in glass. Myra stood, suddenly tense. What is that? He asked. She shook her head. A memo. The light flickered again. For an instant, it formed a shape: 2 figures, walking side by side, one tall, one small. A man and a boy. Lucas's stomach dropped. Ethan, he whispered. Myra's voice was barely audible. He's calling you down. Lucas pressed his palms to the window, heart hammering. It's him. Look, he's alive. Don't, I can't just. Don't look. Her voice cut like a command. He flinched back. When he turned again, the light was gone. Evening came early, painting the world in rusted blue. Myra sat near the heater, staring into nothing. Lucas couldn't shake the image of the 2 figures. Finally, he asked, you said the man in red wasn't the first. What happened to him, the real one? She didn't answer. Myra, she met his gaze. He was a ranger once, before Isaac, before Samuel Holt. His name was Caleb Rourke. He kept watch the same way you do, and when the voices came, he went down to help. She looked away. The mountain took his skin, left his anger behind. Lucas felt cold creep up his spine. And now he wants you. He wants everything that remembers warmth, she said softly. Outside, thunder rolled again. Dry, distant, like stones grinding together. Lucas looked out at the sky. The clouds above the ridge glowed faintly red. He's awake again, Myra whispered, and the mountain remembers you now. Section 2. The mountain didn't care about time. By the second day after the storm, Lucas realized the clock above the stove had stopped at 2:03 p.m. His wristwatch ticked normally, but when he glanced away and back, the hands had shifted, minutes missing, hours repeating. The light outside didn't match either. Noon looked like twilight, and dusk looked like the inside of a dream. He marked time by the coffee. He drank. It didn't help much. Myra hadn't moved from her seat near the window. The yellow coat hung beside her, still damp even though the heater ran constantly. When he looked at it for too long, the folds of the fabric seemed to breathe. He tried to ignore that ... at 10 a.m., or what he believed was 10 a.m. The first knock came. Soft, rhythmic, like a pulse egg. Against the metal stairs, Lucas froze. Myra looked up slowly. He's testing daylight, she said. It's morning, Lucas whispered. He can't. Morning doesn't mean what it used to, she said. The knocks came again, louder now. The sound climbed, step by step, until it stopped right below the hatch. Lucas gripped the rifle. He can't come in. Myra's voice was almost a whisper. He doesn't need to. Something brushed against the hatch. A dragging sound, like fingertips tracing rust. Then came the voice. Lucas, Caleb called, quiet and deliberate. You forgot to at the deer. The words sank through the metal like liquid. Lucas took a step back. Don't answer, Myra said sharply. I'm not, he hissed. The voice came again. Closer now, as if the air itself was speaking. Rules keep you safe, Lucas. But rules don't love you. Lucas clamped his hands over his ears. The sound wasn't just sound. It vibrated in his skull. Behind his eyes. Stop it, he shouted. Then silence. He woke later on. The floor. His head throbbed. The room was dim again, as if hours had passed. Myra wasn't at the window anymore. Myra. Answer. He stood, heart hammering. The door was still locked. The coat still hung on the chair, but her shadow wasn't anywhere in the room. Myra. The only sound was the hum of the heater and the faint hiss of wine through the vents. He checked the hatch. Locked, windows sealed. She couldn't have gone outside. Then he saw it, the corner of a notebook sticking out from beneath the desk. Its edge dark with soot. He knelt, pulled it free. On the cover, written in faded black ink, "Field log, I Walsh." Lucas's throat tightened. He flipped it open. The first P. Ages were ordinary. Notes about weather, coordinates, maintenance logs. Then the handwriting changed, rushed, uneven. Day 94. Heard movement outside. Not deer, something heavier. Spoke my name in the storm. Didn't answer. Fed the deer anyway. It left footprints going. Uphill. Day 101. Samuel's face in the reflection. Said the mountain is hollow now. Said she's still sleeping. Day 108. The rules A. Older than the park, their treaty terms. Day 110. If anyone replaces me, tell them not to dig. There's another list beneath the tower. The one we don't write down. Lucas turned the last page. A small sketch covered the entire sheet. A spiral drawn around a central point, the tower, with lines radiating outward into the forest labeled memory wells. At the bottom, a single sentence: the red man guards the wells. The yellow girl keeps them sealed. He felt something shift under his feet then, a dull metallic groan, like the tower exhaling the floor. Panel beneath the desk moved half an inch. He crouched, ran his fingers along the seam, loose. "Don't," came Myra's voice from behind him. He startled, turning. She was standing. G in the doorway, eyes pale, expression unreadable. "You weren't here." He said. "I was," she said. "You just weren't looking the right way." He didn't know what that ain't. There's something under the floor. Yes, what is it? The part of him that still remembers. Before he could respond, a light flickered outside, red, faint, pulsing like a heartbeat. Myra's eyes darkened. He's coming back. He found the well. The ground vibrated. The mug on the desk tipped, rolled, fell. Lucas looked out the window. The fog had turned crimson, glowing from within. Shadows moved through. Slow, deliberate, to be human. Myra backed away from the glass. "You opened it." "I didn't." "You thought about it," she whispered. "That's enough." A sharp crack tore through the air. The tower jolted. Snow poured off the roof in a sheet. Then, for the first time since he'd arrived, the radio came alive on its own. Static. Then Isaac's voice, calm, distant, fading in and out. "If you hear the mountain breathe, close your eyes. It can't take what it can't see." Lucas froze. Isaac, where are you?" "Under you." "You." The voice said, "Always under you." Then the static deepened into something else, a low vibration that rattled every loose bolt in the walls. Myra's hand shot out, grabbing his arm. "You need to bury what he gave you." He blinked. "What?" "The gift," she said. "The coffee. The bread, whatever he offered. Did you bury it?" "Yes," he said. "Behind the tower. Then dig it up. And burn it," she said. "He marked you through it." Lucas's pulse pounded. He looked toward the hatch, then back at her. "I can't go out there." "You can't stay in here," she said. The tower groaned. Again, louder this time, dust rained from the ceiling. Outside, the red glow was climbing the stairs, section 3. The hatch screamed when he forced it open. Metal against metal, a long, tearing shriek that echoed down the mountainside. Now gusted in, stinging his face, and for a moment he almost turned back. The tower's warmth felt fragile, like something borrowed. Behind him, Myra stood at the top of the stairs, the yellow raw incoat pulled tight, her eyes reflecting the storm light. "You'll only have a few minutes before he feels you," she said. Lucas slung the rifle over his shoulder, grabbed the flare goo, and started down the steps. The snow was knee-deep and dry, crunching underfoot. Every breath burned. The air was wrong, to still between gusts, like it held its breath whenever he moved. The light FR The tower fell short, swallowed by fog. He reached the clearing behind the tower where he'd buried Caleb's gift. The ground there was smooth, untouched by the wind. No drifts, no marks, as if the mountain remembered what he'd done and wanted to keep it secret. He knelt, brushed snow away with gloved hands. The soil was soft beneath. Volcanic ash, black and warm, steam, rose faintly where it met the air. He dug faster, heartbeat pounding against the cold. After a minute, his fingers hit metal. A thermos, silver, impossibly clean. He froze. The thing looked new, not like something left out in ash and frost. When he touched it, a faint hum traveled up his arm. Inside, liquid sloshed thickly. Myra's voice drifted from the tower above, faint but clear. "Burn it, don't open it." He stood, fumbling with the lighter from his pocket. The wind nearly snuffed it out, but the flame caught. He poured fuel from his backup canteen into the H. The smell of gasoline cutting through the air. Then the voice came, soft, almost kind. "That's a waste of good coffee." He spun. Caleb stood a few yards away at the tree line, half shrouded in mist. In daylight, the red coat looked darker, what with shadow. His face was calm, almost human again. "You shouldn't be here," Lucas said. "Neither should you," Caleb replied. His breath didn't fog. "But we both know the rules are changing." Lucas raised the flare gun. "Stay back." Caleb tilted his head. "That's what Isaac said too." "I said stay." "I'm not your enemy, Lucas." Caleb's voice was low, steady. "She told you that, didn't she?" "The girl. She's very good at lying." Lucas's grip tightened. "She saved my life." "Saved why?" "Ooh." Caleb smiled faintly. "No, she marked you. You're standing on her memory. That's why you feel the heat under the snow." Lucas hesitated. The ground did feel warmer, pulsing faintly, like something alive. Beneath it, Caleb took a step closer. "You think I hunt her because I enjoy it. I hunt her because she's what keeps this mountain dreaming. And when she stops, it wakes, then nothing sleeps again. No. You. Not me. Not your brother." Lucas's breath caught. "You don't know anything about him." Caleb smiled wider. "He screamed your name for 3 days before the ash took him. She promised to keep him safe too." The world tilted slightly, snow swirling upward like reversed gravity. The air smelled like burnt stone. Lucas fired. The flare burst midair, flooding the clearing with blindy orange light. Caleb flinched, recoiling with a hiss, but when the smoke cleared, he was gone. Only footprints remained, leading nowhere. Lucas turned back to the pit. The thermos sat in the snow, gleaming faintly red. He struck the lighter again, threw it in. The gasoline ignited with a roar. The thermos screamed. Not metal, something alive, shrieking. As it burned, steam burst upward, tasting of iron and ash. The snow melted in a perfect circle around him, exposing dark stone carved with spirals and sigils that glowed faintly through the flame. The carvings pulsed. One of them matched the spiral from Isaac's notebook. Lucas stumbled backward. The ground beneath the flame opened, just slightly, exhaling a wave of heat that reeked of rot and soil. Inside the fissure, something moved, a faint shimmer like an eye opening deep beneath the rock. Then he heard it, a low, rhythmic sound beneath his boots, breathing. The mountain was breathing. Lucas. Myra's voice cut through the haze. "Get back up here, now." He turned and ran, snow scattering behind him. The heat grew stronger with each step, the air thickening, shimmering with invisible pressure. He reached the tower ladder, grabbed the rung, and froze. Halfway up, his reflection stared back at him from the metal, eyes glowing faintly red. He blinked. It was gone. He climbed the rest of the way and slammed the hatch shut. Myra stood by the stove, trembling. "You felt it, didn't you? What the hell is under there?" he gasped. "Ed, the first fire," she said. "The mountain's heart. He was its keeper before the rules." "Caleb," she nodded. "He bound himself to it. That's why he can't die." "You burned his tether, not His gift, Lucas pressed a hand against the wall to steady himself. Then, what did I just? Wake up! Myra's eyes flicked toward the window, where the fog outside now pulsed faintly red, timed perfectly to the rhythm of his heartbeat, the part that remembers you, she whispered. And now it wants to see what you'll become. Part 5, The Girl in the Yellow Raincoat, Section 1. For the first time since he'd arrived, Lucas dreamed he was standing on the ridge above the Tongariro crossing. The world spread out below in fractured color, steam vents breathed in slow rhythm, and the horizon burned in orange light. A single figure stood at the edge of the crater, small, yellow, hair whipping in volcanic wind. Myra, when she turned, her eyes weren't gray anymore. They were empty, like windows into something larger, clouds drifting behind bone. She reacted. Held out her hand. You shouldn't have burned it, she said. The ground beneath her cracked open, glowing from within. Then she fell, and so did he. He woke gasping, face slick with sweat, the room W. As dim, the storm had returned sometime during the night. Wind howled against the glass, each gust sharp as a scream. The air felt charged again, ozone, sulfur, the same scent as the breath beneath. The ground. Myra sat by the window, knees drawn to her chest, watching lightning crawl across the valley. She looked even smaller in the half-light. You were talking in your sleep, she sighed. D quietly. What did I say? You kept asking for him. Lucas rubbed his face. Ethan, she nodded. The mountain has him. He froze. What does that mean? She didn't turn. It remembers everyone who breaks its rules. The more you try to forget, the deeper it buries you. Her voice trembled, not from fear, but something old or weariness. Lucas moved closer, crouched beside her. What are you? Myra, really, for the first time. She looked afraid to answer. I was the first thing it ever forgave. He frowned. Forgave. The fire burned too. Hot, she whispered. It wanted to stop dreaming, to wake. I told it to sleep. So it made me its voice. Then Caleb. He was supposed to protect it, but he wanted to own it. TH. Underboomed so close the tower vibrated. Myra flinched, covering her ears. Outside, a flash of red light streaked through the clouds, splitting into two. Lucas ran to the window. The fog glowed like molten glass. Shapes moved wit. In it tall, slow, rhythmic, like figures walking. Inside smoke, is that him? He asked. Myra's voice was faint. No, that's the mountain remembering. The S. Storm worsened by the hour. By noon, the world outside was white again, horizon erased. Sky and ground indistinguishable. The snow pressed against the windows in thick sheets. The tower groaned like an old ship lost at sea. Lucas tried to fix the generator. The wires sparked, humming with energy that didn't feel mechanical. When he touched one, the shock threw him backward. Myra was beside him in an instant. You can't use their power, she said. It belongs to the heart. Now, he stared at her. You keep saying the heart. What is it? She hesitated, as if choosing her words. The fire under the mountain. It's alive, but it doesn't know what it is. That's why it dreams. It builds people out of its memories. He stood slowly. You mean us? She looked away. Some. At times, lightning flashed again, closer this time. The shadows on the walls seemed to bend with it, stretching too far. For a moment, Lucas saw another shape beside Myra, something larger, older, made of smoke and G. Old light, standing in the same space she did. Then the flash faded, and only the girl remained. You saw it, she said softly. What was that? My rifle. She whispered, when I forget to hide. The wind howled. Outside, a dark line cut across the snowfield, a trench that hadn't been there before, running straight toward the tower like a scar from its depth. TH's came a pulsing red glow. Lucas felt it before he saw it. The ground under his feet beating like a slow, heavy heart. Myra's eyes widened. It's waking too soon. What do we do? You can't stop it. She stood, pulling the coat tighter. But you can choose what it remembers of you. He grabbed her arm. What does that mean? You'll see when it starts looking. Her voice broke slightly on the last word. Night fell faster than it should have. The light drained out of the world, leaving only the pulse beneath the snow. Every window glowed faintly red, as if lit from underneath. The tower's shadow stretched across the drifts. Long and warped, Lucas sat at the desk, writing. The paper trembled under his hand as the floor quaked. His notes were half-nonsense now, coordinates that didn't exist, times that repeated the same sentence scrawled over and over without him realizing it. Myra keeps the fire asleep. Caleb keeps her afraid. He stopped writing when he noticed the last line wasn't his handwriting. He looked up. Myra stood in the doorway, eyes shining faintly white. "Lucas," she whispered, "he's here, outside." The fog parted. The red coat moved between the trees. Section 2. The first strike came with the wind. It wasn't a sound so much as a pressure, a low-frequency rumble that pressed through the tower walls and into Lucas's ribs. The coffee mug on the desk slid an inch, toppled, shattered. Every loose bolt groaned. Then came the knock. Once, twice, 3 times. Steady, confident, human. Myra turned from the wind. Ow. Her face looked older again, hollow under the eyes, pale light spilling from her skin like reflection off water. "He's not supposed to reach this high," she whispered. The fourth knock dented the metal door inward. Lucas raised the rifle. "We can't let him in." Myra shook her head. "You can't stop him, not anymore." A laugh echoed from outside. It was soft and casual, like someone remembering a joke, still following the rules. "Lucas," the voice was clear despite the storm, unnervingly close just outside the hatch. "She tells you what to do, and you obey, like I did." "Shut up," Lucas shouted. The walls shuddered. Myra stepped forward, her voice low but steady. "Caleb, this isn't your place anymore. Neither is it yours." The sound that followed wasn't thunder, it was impact. Something slammed against the tower base, and the entire structure lurched sideways. Lucas fell, catching himself on the desk. The lamps flickered. A wave of heat rolled through the room, smelling of molten iron. He scrambled to his feet. "What's he doing?" "He's tearing through the boundary," Myra said. "He's letting the mountain see. What happens if it sees us?" She didn't answer. Outside, the snow was glowing again, red and gold veins spreading through the drifts like blood under ice. Caleb's silhouette appeared through the Y, in doubt taller than before, blurred at the edges. The red coat rippled as if made of smoke beneath the hood. His eyes burned steady. "Open the door," he said. "You owe me." A voice. Myra stood between him and the glass. "He owes you nothing." Caleb tilted his head. "You always choose the broken ones," lightning flared. For an instant, Lucas saw 2 figures standing. Where Caleb was, one human, one skeletal, wrapped in fire. Then the flash died, and only Caleb remained. He placed his palm flat on the window. The glass steamed. Myra's whisper was urgent. "Don't speak. Don't even think of your name." Lucas pressed himself against the opposite wall. The window began to melt. A sound filled the air like chanting, but reversed, words dragging through thigh. Our own echoes. Myra's mouth moved in rhythm, whispering syllables that made the lights stutter. Her eyes shone brighter, twin silver stars. Caleb's form flickered as if seen through heat. "Haze," he snarled. "You can't keep it forever. Little keeper." "I don't keep it," she said. "I carry it." The window burst, shards exploded inward. Lucas ducked, glass slicing through the air above his head. The wind hit him like a wall. When he looked up, Caleb was inside. He filled the doorway, steam rising off his skin. His face was half burned, half smooth, shifting between ages, like time couldn't decide what he should be. The air bent around him. "Get away from her." Lucas shouted. Caleb smiled. "Do you even know what she is?" "She's saving you." "Saving?" Caleb's laughter shook dust from the ceiling. "She's the cage. I'm the key." He stepped toward Myra, the floor under him scorched black with each step. Myra didn't move. If you break it, the mountain wakes. Then maybe it's time it stopped. Dreaming. He lunged, Lucas fired. The rifle cracked like thunder, the shot hit center mass, but instead of blood, light poured out. Red gold, shimmering, Caleb staggered but didn't fall. The hole sealed itself, leaving only smoke. He turned slowly toward Lucas. You learned nothing. Myra screamed. It wasn't a hum. And sound, the air warped around her, the lamps burst. Every window in the tower shattered outward at once. For a moment, Lucas couldn't hear anything, only the vibration in his bones. Then, everything went still. He opened his eyes to find the room, filled with ash and light. Myra stood at the center of it, no longer a child. The yellow coat hung in tatters, her hair whipping in an ounce. And wind, her eyes were not eyes anymore, twin voids filled with faint galaxies, slow and endless. Caleb was on his knees before her, face lit by her glow. His voice trembled. You should have let me finish it. You finished it when you broke the rules, she said. Then wake it, he spat. Let it judge us both. Myra's expression softened, almost pity. It already is. The ground shuddered violently. The cracks from beneath the tower split open. Again, light spilling upward like veins of magma. Through the roar came a faint sound, a boy's voice. Lucas, Hief, Raza, Ethan. The voice came again, closer. You're almost home. Lucas's throat closed. Myra he's. She turned to him, her expression suddenly human again, filled wit. Sorrow. He's part of it now. The mountain keeps what it loves. He stepped forward. No, there's got to be a way. The floor caved. For a heartbeat, there was no sound, only free fall. Lucas hit the ground hard, snow and dirt exploding around him. He coughed, pushing himself up. The tower loomed above, half tilted, its base swallowed by red light. He looked up. Myra stood on the edge of the floor, framed by fire and shadow. Caleb was gone. Lucas, she shouted. You have to seal it. How? Bury the light. He turned. The fissure glowed beside him, pulsing wit. Golden fire. Shapes moved inside it, faces, hands, voices whispering his name. Ethan's voice was loudest. Stay, it said, it's peaceful here. Lucas grabbed the shovel, half buried in snow. Hands trembling. I can't. You must, Myra cried. The wind howled, pulling him toward the light. Every instinct screamed to let go, to follow the voice, to stop fighting. He raised the shovel. The heat seared. His skin through his gloves. He brought it down. Once. Twice, the light flared, then collapsed inward, sucking air, sound, and color into itself. Silence. He lay on his back in the snow. Chest heaving, world spinning. Above him, the tower leaned but held. The sky was black again, stars cold and indifferent. Myra stood beside him, human once more. The coat shimmered faintly in starlight. You did it, she said. Lucas turned his head toward her. Where's Caleb? She looked toward the dark horizon. Gone, for now. He swallowed hard. And Ethan? Myra didn't answer. The wind moved her hair, and for a heartbeat he saw another face. Beneath hers a boy's, smiling faintly, eyes bright with light. Then it was gone. She knelt beside him. The mountains till dreaming, she said softly, but dreams don't last forever. Section 3. By morning, the world had gone still. No wind, no ash. Only a thin gray light stretching across the snow like breath on glass. The tower stood lopsided but unbroken, its metal sides blackened, the smell of ozone and burnt iron lingering in the air. Lucas sat against the base of the stairs, hands raw and blistered. He could still feel the heat of the buried fissure pulsing faintly through the solace of his boots, a heartbeat fading into sleep. Myra stood at the clearing's edge, the hem of her yellow coat rushing the snow. She looked east toward the valley where the clouds were breaking apart. Morning sunlight, weak and colorless, spilled through like water through cracked stone. You should go, she sighed. Lucas managed a hoarse laugh. After all that? Just walk away. She turned, eyes the color of storm light. You were never meant to stay this long. The rules aren't chains. Their boundaries cross them too many times, and you become part of what they protect. He stared at her, the words sinking deep. Like Isaac, she nodded. Like all of them, the Sile. Ents pressed against his ears. It wasn't peace, it was absence, every sound. Even the crunch of his boots seemed to fall short of echo. The mountain was listening again, but differently now. Softer, curious, Lucas looked. Up at the tower, one of the windows hung broken, glass glittering in the snow. The inside was dark, but he could still see the desk through the frame, the paper with the rules pinned above it. He climbed the steps slowly. Each one creaked, hollow, as though remembering who had walked them before. Inside, everything was dust and frost. The desk was overturned. The rules were gone in their paw. See lay Isaac's notebook open to a blank page. A single sentence had appeared in the center, written in fresh pencil. The mountain forgets nothing, but it forgives those who remember. Lucas' throat tightened. He touched the words, half expecting them to vanish. They didn't. Myra's reflection appeared in the cracked glass beside him. It wrote that for you, she said. He turned. Then it knows what I did. Yes. Her voice was calm, almost tender. It knows you buried its heart again. That's enough. He shook his head. I saw Ethan. Down there. I heard him. Myra stepped closer, placing a small, cold hand over his chest. He's in its dream now. You kept him there. Safe. Tears burned behind his eyes, but no sound came. Out. The exhaustion ran too deep for grief. They spent the rest of the day repairing what they could. Lucas patched the heater, sealed the cracks with tape, scrubbed the soot from the floor until his arms shook. Myra hummed quietly while sorting through the scattered equipment, her voice so faint it could have been the wind. By afternoon, sunlight pooled in the snow outside, pale and cold but real. The sky was blue again for the first time in weeks. The volcano's cone shimmered in the distance, its slopes steaming faintly where snow met hidden heat. Lucas stepped out onto the platform, low. Walking down the valley, the trail back toward Ngauruhoe stretched into white emptiness. He could leave now, walk for hours, reach Topo by nightfall. Pretend the world was still ordinary. Will he come back? He asked without turning. Myra leaned against the railing beside him. He always does. That's what fire does, it returns to where it burned. He nodded slowly. Then someone has to be here when it does. She studied him for a long moment. That's what Isaac said, and Samuel. Her faint smile carried both warmth and sorrow, and now you. The wind picked up, scattering loose snow across the railing. It glittered like ash. Lucas exhaled. Maybe it's better if the mountain remembers one less thing. Myra looked toward the horizon, or maybe it may. Dis someone to keep reminding it what's real. They stood together in silence until the light began to fade again. That night, Lucas recorded his first log since the storm. His voice sounded unfamiliar in the static. Day. I don't even know anymore. The mountain's quiet. The sky cleared today. Myra's still here. Caleb's gone, but not gone enough. The rules still matter. If anyone finds this tower, follow them. Don't argue. Don't improvise. Don't hope, just follow. He paused, listening to the tape hiss. And if you hear someone calling your name, tell them, I'm keeping watch. He clicked the recorder off. Outside, the stars shimmered. Over the snowfield, thousands of them, cold and ancient, mirrored perfectly in the ice below. For the first time, he realized he couldn't tell which way was the sky. Part 6, Ash and Dawn, Section 1. He woke before the light. The world outside was colorless, a smear of ash and mist stretching across the valley. The air smelled of rain and cold iron. His breath drifted upward in thin plumes that didn't quite reach the ceiling. The tower had stopped creaking. Even the mountains seemed to be holding itself still. Lucas rose, every movement slow, as if the air had thickened overnight. Myra was gone. Her cot was empty, blanket folded neatly, the yellow coat draped across the chair like an offering. on the desk lay Isaac's notebook, now closed, a thin line of soot across its spine. He knew, without needing to look, that she wasn't coming back. The mountain had taken her name. Again, he brewed the last of the instant coffee, its bitter steam the only warmth in the room. When he opened the window, the cold came in with purpose, clean, sharp, absolute. He looked on toward the field below. The snow had smoothed itself. During the night, erasing footprints, flare scars, every trace of violence. It was beautiful, empty, but beautiful. He took a long sip, eyes on the horizon. The sun was rising behind a curtain of fog, dull orange bleeding into silver. The light touched the peak of Ngauruhoe and stayed there, like it was afraid to go farther. He whispered, "I'm still here," for the first time. The mountain answered not with words, but with a slow, seismic sigh. The sound was not frightening. It felt like acknowledgement by mid-morning. He'd packed what little remained, a flashlight, a half-empty flask, Isaac's notebook, and the rules, rewritten by his own hand on clean paper. He placed them in a tin box and set it beneath the radio, an offering for whoever came next. He hesitated before closing it, then added something new, scrawled beneath the fifth rule. "If you hear the dawn breathing, stay until it exhale." The metal clicked shut. He left the radio on. Static filled the room like the hum of a sleeping animal. Somewhere inside that noise, he swore he could hear faint laughter, Myra's voice. Maybe. Or the wind remembering her. The first tremor rolled through the floor at noon. It was subtle, almost tender, a vibration through the tower's bones that built slowly into a steady pulse. He stepped to the window. Outside, the fog was clearing. Again, but not upward. It was folding back, peeling away from the valley floor like skin revealing muscle beneath. Dark shapes moved where snow had been, circles of black rock glowing with faint red veins, breathing in time with the tremor. He whispered, "No, not again." The radio snapped alive, screeching feedback before a voice broke through. "You left something burning, Caleb." The voice was calm, almost conversational. Lucas gripped the desk. "You can't be here." She sealed it. She sealed herself. Caleb said the fire was never hers to hold. The window fogged, then cleared. He was there. Standing at the base of the tower, redcoat flaring in the wind, eyes bright as coals, his shape flickered battle, and human and shadow, like the world couldn't decide which version to keep. "You survived," Caleb said, tone almost admiring. "You should have gone when the mountain gave you a path." Lucas stepped away from the window. "If I leave, it wakes again." Caleb smiled faintly, then let it. "Do you know what it dreams of, Ranger?" Lucas said nothing. Caleb's voice low aired. "It dreams of warmth, of voices, of everything it swallowed to keep from dying. You think you're saving it, but you're just keeping it hungry." Lucas's breath came sharp and fast. "Then what? Is your plan? Burn it all?" "Not burn," Caleb said. "Free." He pressed his palm against the tower door. Metal hissed, smoke rose in thin threads. Lucas grabbed the flare gun from the table and aimed it at the hatch. "Yo, you step through, and I end it. I'll bury both of us if I have to." Caleb's smile didn't fade. That's what every keeper says before they forget which side they're on. Then he was gone, not walked away, gone, like the air had swallowed him. The tremor deepened, books fell from shelves. Snow slid from the roof in heavy thuds. The temperature rose fast, the air tasting of sulfur. Lucas Street umbled to the window. The black rings below had widened into molten scars, and in the center of the largest, something was rising. Not a creature, not fire. A shape of memory, dozens of human silhouettes interwoven, their faces shifting between strangers and ghosts he knew. Isaac, Samuel, Ethan, each face mouthing the same soundless word. "Stay." Lucas backed away. "No." He whispered, "Not again." The tower shook so hard he fell to his knees. The voice came through the radio once more, softer now. "Every fire needs a keeper." Then silence. He looked up at the You'll still pinned above the desk, fluttering in the hot wind. 5 lines and space for one more. He picked up the pencil with shaking hands and wrote, Rule 6, when the mountain breathes your name. Answer once and never again. The trembling stopped. Outside, the light changed. The glow beneath the snow dimmed to gold, then gray, then nothing. The fog returned, soft and slow, blanketing everything. The air cooled. The tar stopped moaning. Lucas sat for a long time, pencil still in his hand, until the sound of breathing the mountains both faded into rhythm. He whispered, I'll keep watch, and the mountain whispered back, somewhere deep under the ash. Then dream well, Lucas Bennett. Section 2. The dawn came slow, deliberate, as though testing the ground before. It rose. For hours, gray light spilled between clouds, and smoke settling over Ngauruhoe in thin, trembling layers. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world scrubbed raw, no footprints, no wind, only why the long, skeletal shadow of the tower cast across the valley floor like a sundial marking a time that didn't exist anymore. Lucas stood on the platform, face turned toward the pale horizon. His breath rose in faint ribbons that hung too long in the air before fading. Below him, the snowfields shimmered not white but faintly silver, as if dusted in ash. He'd stopped counting. NG the days. The concept had lost meaning here, inside. The tower felt smaller than it once had. The walls were warm to the touch, as though the structure itself had absorbed the mountain's heartbeat. The air smelled faintly of sulfur and rain, but the scent wasn't unpleasant, it felt alive. The desk stood where it always had. On it lay Isaac's notebook, the tin box, and a small radio with its red light blinking in patient rhythm. The paper pinned above the desk fluttered gently despite the absence of wind. Lucas ran his thumb over the last line, the one he'd written. And the night before, Rule 6, when the mountain breathes your name, answer once and never again. He smiled faintly. That's the one that sticks, he murmured from the corner of his eye. He thought he saw movement outside, the faintest suggestion of yellow fabric drifting between snowdrifts. He turned sharply, but the space was empty. Only light and mist. Still, he whispered, Goodbye, Myra. Around midday, he powered up the old transmitter. Static filled the room, low and constant, like the sound of a tide. He sat, leaning close to the mic. Cheyenne Station, Tongariro Walk. H reporting. Visibility clear. No seismic activity. Air pressure stable. All quiet. He paused, listening to the hum of the mountain beneath his feet. End of report. He reeled. Aced the switch, leaned back, and let the static wash through the room. For a moment, he thought he heard something under it, a child's voice humming, soft and steady, the same tune Myra had sung the night of the siege. He let it play. The tower's heartbeat matched its rhythm. As the afternoon deepened, mist rolled through the valley again, curling around the ridges like slow-moving smoke. The snow turned from silver to blue, the shadows long and soft. Lucas stepped outside, coat collar up, and looked down toward the forest. The path he'd taken weeks ago was gone. In its place stretched an unbroken field of white. At the far edge, something flickered red, faint and distant, a figure, the man in the coat. Caleb stood at the tree line, unmoving, his silhouette blurred with the branches, more echo than form. The red of his coat pulsed once like a heartbeat, then dimmed. Lucas didn't look away. I know, he said softly. It never ends. Caleb lifted his head slightly, almost in acknowledgement, then turned and disappeared. Into the fog, evening came like an exhale. The clouds parted over the summit, revealing a sky that glowed faint orange from below the mount high, and veins cooling beneath snow. The stars above mirrored it, creating the illusion of two skies, one burning, one frozen. Lucas lit a single lamp. Its warm glow filled the cabin, pushing the shadows back just enough to make them seem polite again. He sat by the window, rifle across his lap, and began a new entry in the notebook. Day unknown, tower standing, snow steady. I think I 10 now. The rules aren't there to keep the mountain quiet. They're to remind us that it's alive, that it's listening, that it remembers. He hesitated, then added, and maybe, that it dreams kinder when someone watches. He signed his name beneath the entry and closed the book. Outside, the wind picked up, soft as breath. It moved through the trees below in slow rhythm, a pulse that matched his own somewhere deep beneath the snow. The buried fissures glowed faintly, heartbeat returning to rest. The radio hissed once, then a voice not Caleb's, not Myra's, but his own echoed through the static as if replaying from another time. Tell them I'm keeping watch. He smiled. The mountain exhaled. And the dawn began again. Section 3. Snow fell again, months later. Not a storm this time, gentle, steady, soundless. The world below was green now, the forest alive with spring. But up here, near the summit of Ngauruhoe, winter lingered like a breath it refused to let go. A helicopter cut through the pale sky, its rotors scattering flakes into spirals. Inside, a young ranger leaned toward the window, staring at the black smudge of the fire tower rising fro. And the ridge, his name patch Red Sea, Dalton. He looked nervous. Everyone did, their first trip up. The helicopter touched down on the plateau, the wind flattening the snow. Dalton stepped out, crunching toward the base of the tower, his radio crackling faintly with static from below. The sound was weaker here, as though the mountain muffled it on purpose. The tower leaned fly, metal sides scarred but intact. A single window pane glittered like old ice. On the steps lay a rusted thermos and the remains of a flare half buried, half frozen. Dalton frowned. Ed, didn't they say this place was abandoned last year? The pilot shrugged from the door. They said the last ranger never checked out. The wind rose briefly, carrying with it a low vibration too deep for hearing, more felt than heard. Dalton hesitated, one hand on the cold steel of the hatch. Then he climbed inside. The air was still. A layer of dust coated the floor. His desk stood in its old place, the lamp beside it dark. The rules were pinned above it, the paper yellowed, edges singed, 6 lines. Dalton stepped closer, brushing frost from the surface. Rule 1. Never leave the tower after dusk. Rule 2. Feed the black deer when it calls. Rule 3. Ignore the voices that beg for help. Rule 4. Bury every gift from the man in red. Rule 5. Let the girl in the yellow coat inside. Rule 6. When the mountain breathes your name, answer once and never again. He stared at the last one for a long moment, mouth slightly open. What the hell? Beside the rules sat a small tin box. Inside, Isaac's notebook, a cracked radio, and a folded page dated 3 months prior. He unfolded it carefully. If you're reading this, why? Or the next in line. The mountain forgives, but it never forgets. Keep the fire quiet, keep the rules close. And if you hear someone calling your name, tell them I'm keeping watch. L. Bennett. Dalton read it twice, then looked around the empty cabin. The air felt warmer now, not threatening, almost kind. He whispered, "Guess you stayed." The radio hissed softly in response. Ooh. Sighed. The light shifted. The sun slipped behind the ridge, and the first hints of night began to pool across the snow. Far below, the valley glowed faintly red, as if embers still burned beneath the art. Dalton set his pack down, sat at the desk, and looked out through the cracked window toward the horizon. The wind sighed through the metal beams, gentle, rhythmic. He reached out, pressed the transmitter button. Tongariro watch. Tower 1 reporting. Visibility clear. No activity. All quiet. He let go of the button and listened to the static. For a moment, under the hiss, came the faintest whisper, calm, steady, familiar. Then dream well, Ranger. Dalton looked up sharply. No one was there. The voice was gone. He smiled anyway. Copy that. The lamp flickered once, catching his reflection in the glass eyes, tired, but calm, posture almost identical to the man who came before. Outside, snow began to fall again, slow and infinite. The mountain exhaled. And somewhere deep beneath the ice, a single, steady heartbeat began anew.